Welcome back to another episode of Milk and Mummies, the space where we get real about motherhood, womanhood, and everything in between. Today's guest is someone whose story has really stayed with me. Kristal Baker is the founder of Luxwells, a wellness brand born out of her own motherhood journey and the need to stay hydrated when plain water just wasn't cutting it. What started as a personal solution during pregnancy and early motherhood became a brand rooted in wellness, flavor, and female resilience. We talk about entrepreneurship, the pressure of returning to work after maternity leave, and how sometimes our children spark the confidence we forgot we had. This is a story about following your instincts, redefining fulfillment, and turning a simple need into a purpose-led business. Welcome. Hi, Kristal. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Not a problem at all. I'm so glad you were able to find the time and make this work because when I heard about your story, when you shared in the way that you did, I was like, this is such a relatable journey to anyone who is wanting to start a business, maintain the business whilst they're whilst they're maintaining and growing and developing their family as well.
Yes.
So I really wanted to just get your words on my podcast and find out all about it. So I guess starting with you and your story, can you take us back to your early motherhood experience? What was that like?
So finding out that I was pregnant, I was so overjoyed.
Yeah.
I didn't want children in my 20s, but I did want them in my 30s.
Okay.
So quite early into my 30s, then I found out that I was pregnant.
Okay.
And I just felt overjoyed about that. And I didn't tell anybody that I was pregnant for such a long time.
Okay, how long did you take?
6 months.
Oh, wow, okay. Very good.
Always wearing a blazer and a scarf and anything that I just,
nobody could tell unless you told them?
unless I told them.
Oh, wow,
so
nice.
when it was a birthday, I had a birthday dinner.
Yeah.
And then I just turned up. I didn't want to have to tell 10,000 people, so I just
Okay.
invited everybody to dinner and just there I was.
Yeah.
I thought if I don't tell people now, then they'll think that I stole this baby.
And suddenly, Kristal, how did that happen?
How did that happen? Yeah, so I just sort of kept a low profile.
Okay.
Really, just you know, hear stories as well. Sometimes maybe you shouldn't say anything too soon.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
My mom was like that when I was pregnant. I think I told my mom at 2 months because she was gonna she's back and forth between London and Ghana.
Okay, yes.
So we knew we wouldn't be able to tell her in person for a while. So we told her quite early. And then obviously you know the story. So we did try and wait, and we waited until the 3-month period to then tell our closest circle.
Yes.
But my mom was very much, no, tell no one.
Yes.
Tell no one anything.
Yeah.
When the baby's born, baby's here.
Yeah.
And then you can share your story.
Yeah.
So I understand. I know personal preferences, cultural preferences. So there's journey to that. But I was like, Mom, like, I can't hide her. She's right here. So there was that.
Yeah.
So I get that as well.
I had
well
family
done.
wanting to throw a baby shower, and I said you can do it 2 weeks before she's due, because then I don't mind that then. But and also I had quite a difficult pregnancy, so I was quite concerned throughout my pregnancy, so I just didn't want to jinx anything, or I just wanted her to get here safely. So that was sort of how the pregnancy journey was.
Because I was going to ask, like, what do you remember most about pregnancy and postpartum? What was that all like for you?
I think during the pregnancy I had a quite severe morning sickness.
Okay.
So that was that was part of why I was able to probably hide it as long. I didn't put on a lot of weight until the very end. So I just got like a really large blazer and a scarf.
Very decorative scarf.
Very.
That's it.
And that was what I was doing. And just going to the appointments and then I had a pelvic issue. She was sitting on my pelvic and pelvis, and then it locked, and so towards the end as she was putting on weight, so it was quite how's the word, there was a lot going on during the pregnancy. So
did you feel quite supported with I guess your care and who you had around you, things like that?
Yeah, definitely. So I just kept it was just immediate family. And my parents, my mum, she obviously she's had a few kids, and so she was obviously who I was getting all of my advice from, and my grandma as well, by phone. So she lived abroad. She was in Jamaica. Just kind of getting, you know, mother, grandmother tips from those who had you know, children, and obviously the doctor, and having my appointments, and just going that way.
Great. That's really great to hear. I know this, but I know part of your journey with pregnancy, I guess you were dehydrated.
Yes.
Quite a lot.
Yes.
And hydration became a thing for you.
Yes, definitely so.
So talk me through that, because that leads on nicely to your brand.
Yes. So because of the sickness, I mean, in general, being pregnant, there were lots of things that you just can't have anyway. So you have to cut out alcohol. I was never really a big drinker, but a social drinker. So I couldn't have any alcohol. I've never really been a big coffee drinker. It's given me quite bad cramps. So I've just never really had coffee, but I had quite a bit of tea. And I just tried to change that out for decaf. And at the time, it didn't taste good. So then I ended up having a lot more herbal teas, and the herbal teas were fine enough for the function of trying to find something to replace the tea I was having. But I always noticed with the herbal teas, they're quite fragrant, and then when you drink them, the taste doesn't match the intensity of the scent.
I get you.
Yes.
I
so
agree
if it was something like strawberry and something, it smells really, you know, fruity, and then when you go to drink it, it's a big anticlimax.
It's true. No, that's so true.
So I was then having to maybe add honey with it, just to kind of sweeten it a bit, just make it a bit more palatable. I'd have that hot, I'd have it cold, depending on how far in the pregnancy and the seasons that I was in, and I would maybe make some smoothies as well, but you can only maybe have like one smoothie a day.
Sugar content.
Precisely.
And things like that,
So I had to drink a lot of water, but I've always found water to be quite bland and unexciting. So, you know, in the beginning, I was doing all of the things and all the foods that you have to cut out, and I was sticking completely to it because I just wanted to do the best for my daughter whilst she was, you know, growing. So I persevered, and then towards the end of my pregnancy, and I was maybe having cordials as well, so diluting those with water. No sodas, anything like that. I was quite good in the things that I should have had, and I didn't really have too many cravings until the end. I was just grateful to keep anything down,
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I didn't want to do anything that might trigger anything. So anything like a lot of hot food, the smells and all of those sorts of things really triggered me. So I kept everything quite simple, but strategically healthy to being pregnant. And so then towards the end of the pregnancy, you know, I was just getting frustrated with this water. You know, I'd have a big jug of it, you know, the bucket, and it's sort of like the 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and every hour I have to keep drinking. And when you're maybe not eating as much, or they say eat little and often, that overwhelm of water would also kind of make me feel a bit motion inside, you know. So I found that process to be quite frustrating, but I persevered. And then after I had my daughter, obviously I'm still feeding, and so a lot of the things I was continuing to maintain. And then I was on maternity leave, so I was at home for a year, and just continuing on with the process. And I think they hadn't done the sugar tax yet, but one day I was at home and just doing baby things, and you know, my daughter, she threw up all over me, as babies do, just casually. And so I sorted her out, and then I sorted myself out. And then once I was sorting myself out, I thought, wouldn't it be nice, you know, to try and find a glass of wine that maybe didn't have alcohol in it or something, because I'm still feeding, and you know, I can't afford to feel a bit lightheaded having, because she's going to wake up any minute now. And there just wasn't really anything that I could enjoy. And so I sort of got thinking about, you know, if there was something, what would make me feel special and still feel like I'm having an adult experience. And I thought, well, the only things I can really drink right now that don't have caffeine in it, don't have too much fruit and sugars and all of those things, and don't have any alcohol, is probably water. So, if I could put the most luxurious thing in water, what might that be? And I thought roses, they're definitely as luxury as you can get in terms of something that, you would appreciate. And I started looking for rose water and I couldn't really find any that wasn't maybe a beauty product or maybe what you would maybe add to baking.
Yeah, okay.
So I couldn't really find anything as a beverage that maybe wasn't. I found maybe like a rose lemonade.
Okay.
But again, it's sort of fizzy and a lot more sugar and not water, which is what I was trying to stick to because I was still feeding. And so I kind of just had that as an idea, and I started having a look just to see about buying edible flowers. And I went down a big rabbit hole and I started ordering all of these different edible flowers and I just started experimenting with them at home. And so that was kind of where I came up with the rose and the honey, and that would be what I would have. And hibiscus, I was having hibiscus and having that with mint. So again, the mint is good for the digestive system. So I was looking at things that were suitable to my circumstance because it was for me that I was just making these concoctions at home. And then I went back to work and then later they introduced the sugar tax levy on soft drinks. And so even then the cordials that I was having from time to time, they became completely unpalatable to me. And then it really got me thinking about how much sugar is in even cordials that we think are better for us and that we have more control over because we're controlling how much cordial and how much water. And so I just really started researching on that. I started looking at a lot of the main brands that you would have that would be infused water. And I would find if I would have them, there'd be a bit of a funny aftertaste at the end. And I just started really reading the labels and reading what was in them and looking up what those things are. And even something like a fizzy drink where they might say, okay, have the 0 version or the sugar-free version or whatever it is. I've always wondered, what are you replacing that sugar with? I said, I have lots of friends that would say, I'm having a diet this, something free this, low this. And I'd always say, well, what's the replacement? And nobody would ever have an answer. They'd be like, I don't know. It's just got no calories in it. Exactly. Why are you asking me all of these questions? Let me live.
Literally that. Like you just kind of, it's so easy to do. Just take certain things at face value. And not really, unless you're on a health tip or you're super curious and you're trying to build something, you're not really going to dig that deep. No. You're not. Because when you do and you start to realize, there's lots of this. It's like, why is it there?
Precisely. Anyway. And I think also it's a behavioral pattern for us as well. I think we all do it. We're looking for what's easier for us and what's convenient. So for example, me making these drinks, but I had to make them because they weren't on the shelf anywhere. So I'd make them, and then sometimes I'd have them in the car, or I'd have them by my bedside, all the places that I would need to have something to drink. But that meant that I would have to make it. Whereas if you're just out and about shopping, you're just going to pick up whatever's convenient for you when you go into the store. And so it takes a concerted effort to say I'm going to make my life a bit more difficult in pursuit of trying to eat or drink cleaner. And a lot of the time it doesn't always fit around your lifestyle and what it is that you're doing. So it's easy to stay in a place of consuming something that isn't best for us, but it's easy for us to access.
Crazy. It's not good, but it's easy. So it's quicker and it fits, and so you just get on board with it and you do
Precisely.
And then anything that is more organic or healthy, whatever else, takes work to do. So that's long and time consuming, which is such a warped way to think. But hello, 2025. It's crazy, but it's not. It's crazy. It really is. But and
so that was that aspect of the sugar tax that they put on the soft drinks that led me down a different rabbit hole, because now I was sort of back into my usual routine, but I had this awareness now of what was in the products that I had previously been buying. And because I had been feeding my daughter, and before then when I was pregnant, I was obviously growing her. I couldn't then unlearn what I had discovered in this journey, because now I know. So, you know, I'm now not buying the things that I was buying before. And a combination, a lot of it was just because I'd cut out a lot of things. So when I was able to resume drinking again, it made me feel drowsy far more quickly, because I'd gone about 18 months to 2 years without drinking. So then I didn't want that. And then the same thing with the sodas, they just sugar overload, too sweet. And I just would not feel myself after I had these things, and it was almost like a longer term detox that I'd put myself through. And you know, even with resuming drinking tea, that was a thing that I picked back up again. I was glad to sort of have, you know, tea. That's my thing. So I got back into that quite quickly, but that was probably the strongest thing that I was having. And again, caffeine in moderation is you know, we all need our different forms to get through. Yes.
There we go. No. My next thing, or that was on my mind, was I was going to ask you, did your friends and family find you annoying during this stage?
Yes.
Right. Because I definitely have my moments of, my partner's vegan, and he's not a vegan who's like, oh my God, be vegan.
Yes.
We're letting our daughter choose what she wants to do and she's ready to. And he's like, it's just how he cooks and seasons his food, etc. It's pretty much the same when he was having meat. It's just there's no meat in this, but it's great. So we have a mix of dishes at home, fine. I came across this, a friend of mine told me about this app, Yuka, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. UKKA. And essentially when you're shopping, you can scan stuff and it lets you know what's in the food and stuff. So I've gone down this rabbit hole. I'm shopping. I can't have this. I can't have this. Guys, have you seen this app? Sends it to everybody. And I was like, Rachel, can you just like, fuck off? We don't need to see this anymore. And I get it. But it's true. Once you see certain things, you can't unsee it now. And it's like, I know that bag of crisps has X, Y, and Z in it. And it's like, do I really want to be contributing to disrupting your micro... Oh my gosh, I'm not going to say any scientific words today.
About your microbiome.
Thank you very much. And I just panicked. Am I going to say that right? Your stuff, the stuff inside your body. Like, how much do you want to disrupt certain things? Or is this going to add to the... and it's like, it's not necessarily work, but there's just a lot of, why are they putting these things in our foods when food is meant to sustain you, when it's meant to be from the ground to your plate?
Yes.
But, you know, people want things to last longer or stay on shelves for more, or there's a premium when you buy certain things. So it's like, it's a real rabbit hole. So the more I get into it, obviously the more I'm going to be sharing, and the more certain friends are like, Rach, I'm keeping my sausages, or I'm keeping it. I don't want to hear about it.
They get annoyed with you. They really do. They really, really do. Because I started doing that with my friends and family. Like, well, why are you having that? Why are you doing this? And they'd say I'd get the exact same response, or just a non-response. They'll just ignore me, and I'm like, okay, they don't want to have this conversation.
I'll take the hint.
Yeah, definitely so. And I think even in the process of when I did decide that I was going to get started with Luxwells, there was such a different rabbit hole that I went down, because my previous experience was in real estate, so it wasn't in the food and beverage space. So I learned everything completely brand new. Right. And you, as they always say, you don't know what you don't know. And I started going to different, webinars and seminars and anything I could find online, listening to podcasts, anything after work that I could find myself at, and I just would go and just listen, because I didn't know anything. I didn't really have anything to contribute. I just listened and I took notes and I took down names of people, and then I started seeing, what do they do? Are they on any shows? Is there anything that I can learn from them? Do they have a book? And that process took a couple of years, just of me doing research, but also just trying to build my own confidence up, and what would validate me to put together what is in my mind. And I had a very vivid image of what I wanted Luxwells to look like, and it was exactly like this. And putting everything together, what I had been making at home and what I wanted to try to put together as a basic minimum viable product, it took quite a while, because then I started trying to find labs who could, manufacturers first, who could put together what it was that I was looking for. And then I had found somebody during COVID.
Okay.
So that was the point. During COVID, obviously the world changed.
Exactly.
And people were being made furlough, and everybody was focusing on health and wellness. People were losing their lives. And, it was a really scary time. And so, I just thought if we get through this, whatever's going on, what do I want life to begin to look like post-COVID? And because a lot of things were just standing still, I started emailing people, manufacturers, and just trying to work out, this is what I'm trying to do. Yeah. Is this something that you can do? And because people weren't really, the factories weren't open. Yeah. So you could have more conversations with people and just try to line things up when things did begin to open. But that also meant that there was a really long wait time of people that were kind of in a waiting list. And the manufacturer that I ended up finding, he could make the products, but he couldn't bottle them in the bottles that I wanted, and he couldn't put the lids on with the lids that I wanted. And he wanted, which is what I kept running into, he wanted to switch the flowers out, because our USP is that we only use real flowers. And the reason that I only use real flowers is because that's how you're going to get the best natural benefit of using the actual ingredient. You could have an orange, or you could have an orange flavouring. You're not going to get the same health benefit from an orange flavouring as you would get if you had an actual orange. And so when I was reading the backs of all of these ingredients, most of it was flavourings or an extract. And you only have to have a nominal amount, and then you can say that something is good for you, and it's not. And because people are in a very fast-paced environment, they're not really reading on the backs of it and really thinking, well, how many grams of that needs to be ingested for it to have benefit, and of the amount of that extract or flavouring, how much of that also is sugar and additives and preservatives, and it outweighs what it is that we think that we're having, but it's convenient, so we just pick it up and we take it home and we have it. And so that was something that I was finding quite frustrating, because I was becoming annoyed that in order to get it shelf life ready, what they wanted me to do was make it not the purpose that I had intended it for, because if I made it the way that they're suggesting, it's going to just be like everything else on the shelf. And so in the end, when I just couldn't find a manufacturer at the time who could make it the way I wanted to, I ended up being referred to a lab. And so the lab were able to help me to keep what I had been doing, but make it shelf life stable. So what I'd been making at home, if I'd make it and then I'd maybe chill it, and it would maybe last maybe 3 to 5 days, and that was fine for me because I was having it. But if I wanted to try and see about selling it and getting it into stores, what they needed was maybe 6 months shelf life, because it's not milk, it's not dairy, so they want something that they can have long enough that they've got a fair time to receive it and sell it to customers without wastage. So we sort of went down that process in the lab, but I was struggling particularly with the lavender flavour to try to have the lavender. So for example, the rose, I use 3 different roses. So one is for the colour, one is for the taste, and one is for the scent. And so it colours naturally. And so with the hibiscus and mint, the hibiscus colours naturally. And so with the lavender and pear, the lavender did colour, but when I added the pear, it would kind of have a bit more of an apple juice look to it. So I was trying to get it to be a bit more
of the lavender
colour. So in the lab, we were trying to work out how can we naturally tint it, because I didn't want it too deep, I just wanted it to be a tint. And what they had ended up saying was, okay, we can use a red dye colouring and a blue dye colouring, and we'll get the balance right to give you purple. And I was like, okay, well, if it's natural, then okay, but not too much. And so we'd found the colouring that I was happy with. And when it was time for me to do the nutritional information, they said, okay, well, on the back of the lavender, you're going to have to put, it's got this red colouring, and you're going to have to put a warning notice on it that says, you know, not to be consumed by children. And so I said, well, why can't children have that? And they said, well, there have been some reports of children becoming unwell if they have this colouring. And I said, well, I don't want to put that in here. You know, what if my daughter wants to drink this and she can't have it? And if I wouldn't give it to a child, I don't also want to have it for myself. So we had to go back to the drawing board and start again. And in the end, I found another flower that had a bit of a colour that supported the original lavender. And then I was good to go with it.
How did you find, especially with this beginning, testing, researching, building, how did you find that with motherhood? How did you find balancing that with motherhood? Sorry.
So it has been a juggle.
Of course, yeah.
But having my daughter changed me in so many ways that I wasn't prepared for. Firstly, just how much your body changes, that in and of itself, that you're not the same person that you was before.
100%.
And you never will be. And that's not a bad thing. You're going to evolve into a new version of yourself. And as time goes on, we're always improving. Than what we were before. Who you were when you were in your teens, you evolve in your 20s, in your 30s, and as time goes on, just because you learn more lessons. So, and I think because I had her later in my life, I was ready to embrace that aspect. So, you know, maybe socializing as much, I wasn't as interested to do because I had waited for her, and you know, so I was really glad with that. But then it was just sort of juggling the career space with motherhood, with nursery drop-offs, with that mum guilt of trying to spend time with your family, being exhausted on the weekend, still having everything that you needed to do. And so I just started thinking to myself, you know, I'm experiencing this within sort of the first 2 years of her being born. And you know, what happens when she goes to school and she's got the school run, and where do I see my future being? You know, this first year has flown by. Being pregnant has flown by. Her turning 2 has flown by. What do I want? You know, she'll be probably going to school in another maybe 2.5 years. And what I would always look at is how much she was developing. So from a very young age, she, you know, they can't see, they can't speak, they can't do anything. They're completely dependent upon you. Then they start to sit up, then they start to crawl, then they start to walk, then their sensory picks up, and then they start to talk. And I looked at all the things that she was doing in such a short period of time. And I guess seeing that firsthand, you see other children when you're small, you're not really paying attention to really what they're doing because you're a child yourself. But as a parent, looking at the leaps and bounds of progress that your child is making. And I just remember thinking to myself, if she can do all of those things in that period of time, obviously that's natural to being a baby. But in that space of maybe she started walking at about 7.5, 8 months. She started standing up. She never liked crawling. She never liked crawling. She didn't like it. And, you know, and I remember, but she had no teeth. And so whenever we'd go for appointments, I digress on this, but I kept noticing whenever we'd go on appointments and we'd see other parents with babies the same age, sort of 8 months, they either were starting to stand up, but they had no teeth, or they had teeth and they hadn't started to stand up. It's very weird. I didn't get to look fully into that, but we kept noticing this, and I thought, oh, maybe the kids that walk earlier, they just don't have any teeth. But anyway, I was paying attention to her journey and how much she was doing. And I just thought, you know, look at this little baby who just, you know, she's not afraid to fall because she wants to walk. She's not afraid to dribble because she wants to talk. She is so curious about the life around her and the space that she's in. You know, she actually inspired me because I remember thinking, when she goes to school, what is she going to think about me? What is she going to think about her dad? What is she going to think about her family? And for me, beginning this journey took me such a long time beyond the idea that I had, because I was afraid to try something and fail.
Okay.
And I was afraid to tell people that I'm trying to do something, and what if it doesn't work out? People, how's that little business that you're doing? And, you know, that sort of shame that, you know, she tried to do something and it didn't work out, that sort of thing. And so I sat on it for a really, really long time. And I remember thinking, I never want her to feel like she can't achieve something if she puts her mind to it. So I learned so much from her as much as I was teaching her. And so although the journey of trying to balance starting Luxwells and parenting her and doing all the other things that come with just being an adult and a parent, I always had that in my mind. So yes, it was really difficult. Yes, it was really challenging, especially when I came up with all of the obstacles. It would have been easy to stop.
Yeah.
But then I just kept thinking, look how much she's done in this period of a year, 2 years. What can I achieve in a year or 2 years if I keep going with this? There must be a way to get this ready because there are other products on the shelf. So why can't I get my product on the shelf?
I hear that.
And a lot of the balancing was through that comparable lens.
Okay, yeah. So I hear that with her being the motivation and, as you said, the inspiration as well. Was it how? I guess it's. I'm trying to understand in terms of like maybe support from friends or family, what that would have looked like. But I guess maybe there's an element of conversations and emails, perhaps. So maybe it wasn't so. Maybe you didn't have the juggles of having to physically be somewhere and you could take your daughter or couldn't take your daughter. I mean, that's not me building a picture, but I'm not sure if those were
So firstly, nobody around me got what I was doing. I remember going to a few networking events after work, and again, you know, online, particularly with COVID, there was a lot of things online
as well. Yeah, exactly.
And so I remember listening to a podcast and going to somewhere when we were allowed to go back out after work, and I remember hurrying to get there, and you know, I'd sorted out childcare, and there was a guy, I can't remember who he was, and he was saying, you know, you should shout out about what you're doing before you do it, because you don't want to waste your time doing something and then you realize when you've made it, people don't like it. You want to try to pivot and correct it as soon as you can, right? And I thought, okay,
interesting.
I'm a very private person. You know, I didn't tell anybody I was pregnant for 6 months, so I'm not going to run around
telling anyone about my business. No, until it's here.
Run around telling people I'm trying to start a drinks business and I know nothing about drinks, and you know, I've not really got any budget, and I've just had a baby, and why am I going to run around telling people this? No, I'm not going to tell people that. They're going to ask me questions I don't have the answer to. So no, I'm going to just work this out quietly and see if I can get it anywhere. And but when I listened to this, and I heard a couple of people saying this, and I thought, okay, I'll just start talking about this idea with people. You know, it's COVID. People have got time to think about stuff now. You know, people's minds are focused on health and wellness and not being sick and, you know, all of these things. Nobody got it. I said to people, so what do you think about flowers in water? You know, and they'd be like, well, like a vase? We're like, no, to drink. To drink. No, I don't understand that. What are you talking about? What kind of flowers? I'm like rose and honey, but who drinks roses? You know, what about lavender and pearl? Sounds like granny's old handbag. You know, what about hibiscus and mint? What, you mean sorrel? That'd be a drink we have in Jamaica. Or other people, if they're not from the Caribbean, let's say. But what's hibiscus? What's I don't get what you're talking about. No, I don't know what you're saying. So I was finding that challenging because I didn't have anybody around me that understood. And when I was talking about water, people were either like, well, I love drinking water. What do you mean you don't like drinking water? That's the best drink possible. No, I drink. Or then other people were like, yeah, no, I don't like drinking water either, but I don't know about flowers in water. I'll just have a soda or I'll have something else. And so I couldn't find a connecting point in the people that I was speaking to. And they were my immediate people because, you know, I wasn't going to just go out and speak to...
stranger.
Yeah, stranger.
Have you thought about water and flowers? No.
Precisely. So that put me off for quite a while. And I just thought to myself, you know, you shouldn't have told anybody because it set me back a few steps with my confidence.
Right.
Precisely.
And perspectives.
Exactly. So, but then I read a stat at the time, and I think it said something like 74% of Brits don't drink enough water.
Okay.
Because I was looking, it was very high. So I started looking at so the more I was sort of listening to these webinars and seminars online, I just started doing more behavioural research in terms of, how consumers purchase and how people are living. I started looking more at that to sort of validate or not disprove the idea of what I was trying to put together. And a stat, it said, 74% of Brits don't drink enough water. And the main reason was that people found the taste bland and unexciting. And so they would have other drinks because maybe they like the sound of the can opening, or they like the fizz, or they like feeling free if they're having alcohol. It's their weekend way to wind down, or the caffeine gives them an alertness and a kick and a drive. And so I was looking at why people like to drink the things that they like to drink. But that was why a lot of people didn't like to drink water. And so then I thought, okay, well, I'm definitely not on my own now. I know it's not just me who doesn't enjoy drinking water. And then I was listening to something else and it was talking about find your audience. Your audience probably are not your family and friends.
Yeah.
So, nobody really has family and friends that get what they're trying to do and are really their customer. You'll either maybe get your family saying, oh, well done, keep going, because they're being supportive, or people that will be very honest with you, either because it's not for them, or maybe they're trying to deter you, or they'll say, well, if it doesn't exist, there'll be a reason why. So why would it be something if you come up with the idea? So I got around that blocker through, again, listening to other people who had been where I was trying to get to. And that was sort of how that process then started with me getting my confidence and continuing on with the journey.
No, I hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. As much as your family and friends can be your biggest support, there are definitely certain ideas where, as you just said, they're not the audience for that. So they're not necessarily going to push you or challenge you or inquire about certain things in a way that you would need to help move an idea forward and things. So I think the more you understand that, the more I think people are going to be less offended or less deflated if your mom doesn't get it, or if your brother doesn't get it. Like, it's absolutely fine that that's not how they see you or what they would think you'd want to do, etc.
Exactly.
So why would
there's a lot of that as well?
Do you know what I mean? So yeah, totally get it. I mean, my mom's like, wait, so you're gonna sing and you're gonna get paid? That's your job. What do you mean? So sometimes she just doesn't. Even now, wait, so they paid you to do this commercial?
Yep.
Or wait, so you want this show? Wait, why? So sometimes it's just what it is. But then she sees that you're happy, and she sees that it's working somehow, and it's like, okay, well.
Yeah.
Good job.
Definitely. I got a lot of that, especially from women in my family as well. And I can't even really hold it against them at this stage in my life now. I accept we've all come from different times and different experiences. And I think probably maybe, one of my biggest champions later was my grandma. She's passed now, but she would say, well, you're going to have a business. In her time, you didn't have a business. You worked and you kept your head down and you had your family and that was what you did. And you didn't go off and try and build
you supported
a business.
Your partner or your husband.
Exactly.
Your responsibilities were just very different.
Exactly.
Very different.
And when they wanted to go back home, you went with them, even if you didn't want to. You're supporting what the head of your household is doing. And then in terms of my mum, her time also was different because it was more female led, more career driven. But then the focus is on the career, being a career and then having your children. And I think maybe now more of our time is you can be entrepreneurial. There is a lot more space for that if you are adamant enough that you want to go off and go and do that. There is an opportunity and a possibility for you to do it. Is it easy? No. But is it possible? Yes, there's a lot more resources available to us.
For sure.
Exactly. So you can create something at home. You don't necessarily have to have a whole space that you've had to buy or rent or acquire somehow.
All those things.
You don't have to have lots of people. You
or
can
investors right now. Or,
exactly.
all that kinds of stuff.
You can do that, and you can put a viable product together yourself or a service together yourself and see what happens with it, you know. So you don't need as many people to coordinate the dream that you're trying to build, at least in the beginning. Anyway, so I take those factors into play, because a lot of people were saying, well, you know, you've got a good job, you know, you're making reasonable money, and you've got that security, and you know, why would you jeopardize that change,
you know,
exactly.
All the unknowns.
You've got a baby, and you know, you have all the things that you wanted. So why would you disrupt that in any way, you know? Maybe, and somebody said to me, maybe you should do that when your daughter's, you know, going off to college. Maybe then you'll have that time. I said, do you know, she's just born. Do you know how long I'd
20 years later, 18 years later.
Exactly. I said, and if you've seen the stats with young adults, they're not even leaving home at 18 and 20. They'll be there still at 35.
Because we can't afford to live in London, etc. No, but it's just, I get that so much. But it's just like, if you wait, what's for you is for you, and it won't pass you. It's true.
Exactly.
However, you know, the idea, you might not believe in that idea anymore. Somebody else might do the idea. You might lose the confidence or the want or the desire, the drive to do that idea.
Right.
Then there's this idea of regret, or I wish I shoulda, woulda, coulda, why didn't I just, all that kinds of stuff. I think it costs you too much.
It does, which is what I got from my grandma, because I think as much as in her time this wasn't a thing, she was always saying to me, because she used to speak almost every day on the phone, and she'd be saying, oh, so how's your Drake's business going, dear? How's it going? You know, keep going. And I'd tell her, oh, we got this listing here, or we had this publication here, and she'd be like, oh, I'm so happy for you. I never thought I would see this in my lifetime. And so she was such a big champion. And she was like, you know, let me tell you, with this one life, you know, there'd be so many things I wished I could have done, but I'm glad I can see you doing it. So don't give up. If it's what you want to do and you feel like you can do it, then do it. And so I had her at the end of what life is, looking back at, you know, what you might have done differently if the opportunities were available. And then I have the beginning of life, which is my daughter, and what do I want her life to look like? And between the two, the beginning and the end, there's a whole middle, and I'm in the middle. So it's going to be what I make of it, or what I don't make of it. But it's within my control. I don't want to look back later and say, oh, I didn't do this because I had a child, or I didn't do this because other people said, because one thing people will say, I never told you to do something, and I never told you not to do something. Listen. So you're free to make your choices.
Listen to me. So and that is the biggest kicker. I don't think I've ever had to deal with that as an adult, in the sense of I've never had that stop me doing things. But I remember hearing something like that. Maybe teenish kind of times, where somebody said something almost verbatim to that. And it's like, but I stopped what I was going to do because you had said, but I didn't tell you to.
Exactly.
And now you're there like a dickhead. Like,
100%.
So never again.
Never again.
Oh my gosh, never again.
I had somebody say that to me once when I was younger as well. And I thought, oh.
Right?
And that stuck with me. It stuck with me.
Yeah.
Because it's yourself that you'll be kicking later.
100%. You're the only person who's ever going to sit in a space of regret or wonder. Everybody else is doing their own thing. Like,
exactly.
Whoa. So that's such a big one for me. Absolutely not, mate. Even if it's absolutely terrible, if it's absolutely shit, at least I did it, I know it. Move on to the next thing.
But also as well, when you try something and it doesn't work, you learn that didn't work, but it will lead you to something else. There'll always be a lesson in the thing that you tried that you didn't.
100%.
And if you didn't like it, you'll know why you didn't like it. And it's one less thing now, because now it leads you closer to what you do like, or it wasn't your strength. Why wasn't it your strength? Okay, now you can lean more into what your strengths are. So there's always a lesson in everything that you do
100%.
that leads you on to the next chapter.
What does a typical day look like for you now? And does balance feel possible?
I think now a typical day really is always trying to secure new listings. Really, that's what I'm always trying to do. Focusing on the sales, keeping the lights on, and really also leaning into my daughter and what her interests are as well, and just really being present with her. I think also part of the benefit of having your own endeavors, you're not ever going to work less than if you have a regular corporate role. You'll always be working more, but it doesn't feel... You're building your dream instead of building somebody else's. And I think there's a time for each thing. I think there'll be a time where you'll be building a career. I think there'll be a time when you're a parent, if that's what you want to be. There'll be a time where you have moments for yourself, but you have to build in moments for yourself. And there'll be times if you have an endeavor that you want to see out, and it might be entrepreneurial, it might be something else. And there'll be a time that you do that, but you have to sort of give yourself that time. So, my typical day will be, looking at any orders, making sure that those are dispatched, securing new listings, trying to do some form of social media, which is not my strength. I'm working on that.
I think everyone
massively.
Is. Either phenomenal at it or just absolutely just hoping and praying as they get it done. It's definitely, it's just a... Yeah, it's weird. Sometimes I'm like, I'm winning at socials. And I'm like, you know what? I'm sick of it. I've had enough.
Yes.
So I get it.
And also working out what social platforms work better for you as well. And I think 1, from a founder, 2, from a product. And whether you have a product business or a service-based business, and who you're trying to reach out to and what platforms people are using each for, and really understanding that. So I'm trying to understand that a lot more and optimize that.
All right, well, when you figure that out, please let me know, because I should know a heck of a lot more, because I can sit in a beauty space sometimes, the podcasting space, then there's an acting space, and already my PR people are like, Rach, that's so much. I was like, I get it, but that's also just my life. That's just what it is. So when you crack that code, please give me the cheat sheet, and then and we'll see what happens, what changes there. But I also realized I hadn't asked you. I wanted to know, how did you come up with the name Luxwells, and then also what was your first listing?
Okay. So Luxwells is luxury intertwined with wellness. And that was the place that I was in when my daughter threw up on me.
Love it.
And I decided I wanted luxury as a new mum intertwined with wellness, because I couldn't have wine and all of the other things. And so that's essentially what it is. And, part of why we're using the real ingredients, I'm trying to keep as close to water as possible. So, we all know the benefits of water. You could live without food for a number of days, but water you need it.
We are water. And we're made of water.
Precisely. And it impacts so many things: our skin, our sleep, how we function, what's going on inside of our bodies, how we're flushing toxins out of our bodies, and all of this, and how we concentrate and our cognition. So I didn't want to try to create something that was like everything else that's on the market. It is water. I'm trying to keep it as close to that, but make it as interesting and intriguing as you can do. Because initially I would be having maybe lemon and cucumber, and I just didn't find that the taste profile was as intense. So that's, but that's essentially where Luxwells, the name, came from.
And your first listing, do you remember?
My first listing was Selfridges. My first listing was Selfridges. Shortly, a week later, by Fortnum and Mason as well. And I was so surprised by that. I went to a food and beverage event. So a lot of the webinars and out of hours networking, it was general entrepreneur spaces. But then I discovered one that was specifically for food and beverage, which was like a jackpot for me, because everything that I was learning was specific. And they had a competition.
Oh, cool.
Applying to pitch to some buyers.
Okay.
And
nice.
Selfridges was one of the buyers. So, I thought, wouldn't that be fantastic? I thought they're not going to respond to me, but, let me try.
Yeah.
And I think it was just, I hadn't even had the full product complete yet. I just had the bottle and I had a mock-up of the packaging put together, and I was waiting for the shelf life and nutrition information to come through. And I'd been applying for, there was a Great Taste Award you can apply for as well.
Yeah.
And so I'd applied for this all product being completely ready.
Love it.
And so I went to the pitch event and I bought my cage. They had a green room for the buyers. So that the buyers wouldn't be stalked by all of the food and beverage founders trying to catch them in the corners. Take my product, right? Take it. So they had a green room. And so I thought, let me put my cage in there because there was an opportunity for everybody to have their samples. And I thought, well, this is going to stand out because it's going to be different. Yeah. And so I put it there. And so then I had my slot with the Selfridges buyer, and I pulled out my deck that they said we should have, and I showed it to her. She said, I'm already drinking this. She had it behind her laptop, and she said, I've been enjoying that. She said, and I had another one when I was in the green room. So what's the other one? And so she had that. She's okay. Well, I don't need to ask you lots of questions now because I've already tried it. She says, okay. Well, she was asking me some questions that she needed to know in terms of, how long it would take for it to be ready if they wanted to place an order. Yeah. And so that was the conversation. You get 10 minutes to pitch and within a few months, so even from the point of them wanting it does take time. But that was my first listing, and then immediately after that I was approached by Fortnum's, and again another competition that I'd applied for, and I never win anything from being a small child in school with a raffle ticket to go and see the lights turn on at Christmas. I never win anything, but the drinks seem to be my lucky charm. And so I'd sent all of the flavours off for the Great Taste Awards. I'd seen at another event there was a gentleman, and he had some chutneys or something, and he had all these emblems on them with the stars. And so I said, what's that? I said, Great Taste Awards. It's really good if you've got a new product, that's particularly if it's unusual for foodies, they'll really recognise that, and it sends a strong message in the food and beverage space. I thought, okay, so I applied for that, and it's maybe, I don't know, a year, 6 months in advance of when you're applying.
Oh, I see, okay.
So then you get the results maybe late in the summer, I think. So you maybe apply for it earlier in the year.
Got you.
And so I'd applied for it, and I just thought, if I can just get 1 star, it's like 1, 2 and 3 stars. Yeah. So if I can just get 1 star for one product, wouldn't that be fantastic? Little old me with a 1 star for any one of these products, that would be great. That would make me feel like it's not been a waste of time. And I got Great Taste Stars awards for all of the flavours, which completely floored me. I wasn't expecting that. Nice. And a different pitch event that I applied for, and I was selected as one of the final 3 to pitch, and then I actually won. I was so nervous, I was shaking, and I won. So I was like, oh gosh, something great is happening. And the Fortnum's buyer, she said, she came over to me because they were on the judging panel. She was with some other judges, and then she said, oh, did you enjoy the 2 stars on your lavender flavour? And I said, yes, I did. And I said, how do you know about that? She said, oh, because I was on the panel when we were doing the judging, and she said, I'd be interested to stock Luxwells. And I had them on maybe my sort of year 2, year 3 of my little business plan that I'd loosely put together. And that was within, they were my first listings.
That's
so
amazing. That's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Have you faced moments of burnout or doubt, and what pulled you through when you did?
Yes, most definitely. Burnout, I think, just sometimes trying to manage everything. So with Luxwells, we're still a smaller brand. And so much of what is done by me. I do have some help from time to time. But majority of it has been me. And just trying to navigate that around parenting, around adult responsibilities. For a very long time, I was doing this in the background while still doing my day job. Just, you know, you do your 9 to 5 and then you go home and then do, you know, it would be a 5 to 9, but then I've got my daughter. So, you know, you do homework, you do dinner, you do bedtime, and then somehow you find some energy and drag yourself and go and, you know, send some emails, you know, get some product together, try and do a bit of content. So it would be very early mornings and late into the evening as well. But you make time if it's something that you really, really want to do. And it's just about how you utilize your time as well. You know, could you get up maybe an hour earlier in the morning? That could be an hour that you could put towards building a dream of yours. If you're not a morning person, could you maybe spend an hour or two in the evening building that dream? You know, and how do you choose to spend your weekends? And, you know, you could be maybe watching, you know, your guilty pleasure program, or you could be listening to a podcast, you know, where you're learning things and you have somebody in your ear who gets what you're trying to do. Or you can spend time with your loved ones and your friends more often, but also maybe they don't understand, so you've got a different person in your ear. So one could be encouraging and one could be deterring. It just depends on how you want to spend your time, because, you know, we only have a certain amount of time in the day, in the week, in the year. But if you start doing little things, and you'll start to see some results. You look back at how long you've been spending on something, and you look at what you've achieved. You'll find actually you've achieved more than you thought you had. And even if you start, and as I said before, it's maybe not all gone according to plan, you've definitely learned things, and it will allow you to reroute yourself into where you're trying to go to.
No, for sure.
What
would you say to other mothers sitting on a business idea but lacking confidence?
Definitely 100% go for the thing that you're trying to go for, especially if nobody around you understands it. And, you know, you don't have to tell everybody, but if you do, be prepared that not everybody will get it. There will be some people. I have a cousin, she is such a big supporter, and she is not at all from the food and drinks space, and she just champions, you know, what I'm doing. And, you know, she's one of the few people that I'll call and say when we've had a win, or I'll say when something hasn't worked out. And, you know, she can't do anything to fast forward this process that I'm going in, but she always gives great advice, and she is somebody who wants to see the win. So sometimes you don't need a lot of people, and I found, you know, a lot of new people in the industry space, and, you know, that is a great bond as well, because we're all individual minds having the same obstacles and challenges, and so you can brainstorm with each other, you can give each other tips, you can connect people to other people that you've come across. And so, you know, even with an idea, there's so many things that you can do to bring it to life, and just give yourself that opportunity. You know, because if you don't do anything, everything will stay the same. So definitely give it a try.
Awesome. What does success look like for you now? And has it shifted since becoming a mum?
Yes. So before having my daughter, I thought success looked like all the external things that you can see. You know, many, many moons ago, my space before property was in fashion. And so... you know, I lived for a bag and a shoe and an event and a, you know, an association of such, those sorts of things. And which is why I think it's good to kind of have those moments for yourself again. I lived in my 20s. I had a very different life to what I have now. But I would definitely say, now I really value peace of mind.
Got you.
You can't put a price on peace of mind. Sometimes you can really just be chasing your tail. I think that there was a period when I had my daughter and I had the idea and I had the career, and you're trying to please other people with their needs and everything, and there just became a point where it's not sustainable.
Got you.
And so I just decided I'm going to manage the things that I can, which is being a mother, trying to maintain a healthy living experience, and just gently stepping back from things that are not things that are not serving you, because everything doesn't need to serve you. But I think sometimes there are seasons and reasons, and there are times, sometimes at a certain stage in your life, certain environments are good for you. Yeah. And then other times, as we're evolving and as we're growing, a different, season is best. You wouldn't wear a winter coat in the summer. It doesn't serve that season. And you wouldn't walk around in a bikini in the winter because it doesn't serve that season. So it's just knowing what season that you're in, and what are you trying to achieve from that season, and what have you taken from the season before to transition into the next. Yeah.
What's next for Luxwells? Are any exciting plans you can share or not? Not sure.
I'm trying. So I'm going to be more active on socials.
Love it.
Okay. So just trying to work on. And I'm going to be trying to do some pop-up events as well.
Fun. Yeah.
So Luxwells has mostly been, trying to be in stores and some online, but I find I get more traction in stores.
Cool.
But I'm going to be trying to do more D2C. So I'm going to be doing some pop-ups, more listings, but also more founder stories. People are always saying do founder-led content, which is something I've always run away from because
Not
of
anymore.
I know. Chief privacy. So that's what we're trying to do at the moment.
That's cool. All right, well, to wrap up, some quick fire questions for you. One wellness ritual you swear by.
Or water. Having enough water.
Perfect. One thing you wish you'd known about motherhood.
How much my daughter was going to teach me. Because we always think that as parents, we teach our kids. But actually, your kids teach you so much.
I
Yes.
couldn't agree more with that one. And then finally, what's the first thing you do when you finally get 10 minutes to yourself?
Oh. Turn everything off.
Okay.
Yeah. I get a lot of... It either is a very peaceful moment where I switch off from the day, which in turn allows me to reset, and then I start getting other ideas.
Yeah.
So
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Kristal, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Rachel.
Thank you for sharing your story and how it all kind of came to be. And just mulling over what you've said thus far, and also what I knew already. But I just think it's always amazing for me and for listeners when you hear about you had the idea, confidence, no confidence. How am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? And you just start, and then you just see where everything takes you.
Definitely.
So thank you for sharing your intentions and how you made it to where you are now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you want to check out Luxwells and experience the brand for yourself, head to Instagram at Live Luxwells. Info will also be in the description boxes below. As always, if today's conversation resonated with you, please share, please review, please rate, all that wonderful stuff. Until next time, keep pouring into yourself, and I'll see you in the next episode.